Hi guys. At first, this probably just looks like a chore video, like one of the last ones that I posted up. This is different. I made an executive decision on Saturday. This is Thursday now. That after Saturday, I was no longer going to have chores as a requirement for playing. I did them every day, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day for 5 weeks. I have video proof of all this if anybody wants to see it, although I can't imagine why anybody would want to see it. And my rule that I made was I could not basically have fun playing pool until I completed my 2 chores. And I had fairly decent self-discipline on it, and I did tough it out for 5 weeks. So maybe I'm a quitter, maybe I'm not. But the thing is, I started doing those to work on recognizing and dealing with unseen pressure, unfelt pressure for completing these things. Like here, I would always just shoot stuff like this just as an exercise. I miss a ball, I put it back. Kind of practicing the shots. But when I was doing this as a chore, I had to complete it in order. Or if I missed a ball, put them all back and start over again. And there were some days where I had to start over again a lot. Starting last Tuesday, actually, the chores ran their course. And I'd become completely desensitized to missing. When I missed, I was like, okay, that's fine. Put the balls up and go again. If I missed again, okay, that's fine. Put the balls up. There was zero pressure because, frankly, I didn't give a shit. I've talked before about a give a shit factor. I had none. Starting with last Tuesday, I had no give a shit on whether or not I did these or not. But I still toughed it out for several more days. Because I guess I wanted to see if that pressure was going to come back, that desire to complete it was going to come back. But it just never did. And I started dreading coming down here to play. I mean, pool's like my big fun thing, in case you never guessed that. I would come down here later and later in the day because I would dread it. Man, if I go down there, I'm going to have to do these damn chores. And then if I feel like playing after I complete those, then I can just play and have fun. In a lot of cases, it would take me so long to complete these chores that I wouldn't feel like playing anymore. I'd be like burned out on pool. So that sucked. When I was doing these, of course, like I said, I recorded. I'm a computer geek. I've mentioned that before. I have a spreadsheet with basically all of my misses for 5 weeks. What am I missing? And that's kind of how I just have these balls arranged right now, from easiest to hardest. Now, what the 2 balls right here, the 2 and the 4 and the 8 are kind of interchangeable as far as miss rate goes. 3 balls here, kind of interchangeable. The 2 balls on the edge start getting a little bit tougher. The 12 to 14, 13 to 15, the hardest angles. I think I've talked about this before. These are the angles we're going into a corner pocket. With any kind of speed, it's least likely to go in. If it hits the side rail, it's probably going to bobble out. It's pretty likely to bobble out. And if for some reason the very middle ball here on the spot, it got a little bit easier again. Not entirely sure why that happened, but it did. So usually I would just put these balls up randomly because I'm pretty much lazy and didn't feel like putting them all out in any kind of an order. Plus, there's no sense in me mastering making the 4 if it's in this position. when in a real game it's likely to be anywhere. You know what I'm saying? I just put these here for dramatic effect, I guess. So that's one of the things that I learned, I guess, and I already knew that these are tough angles. This is tough angles. This has a very narrow target pocket down there. So it was this. I already knew this, but it reinforced the belief that I thought was going to happen. Another thing that I learned is, well, I actually learned a lot, okay? That I don't want to make this a 5-hour long video, so I'm going to try to condense it just a little bit. Things that I learned mostly about my game by shooting this chore and the next chore is that even though I have 75 billion different physical styles, I can shoot equally well with all of them. And the first 4 shots that I shot here, you guys might not have noticed, especially from the front view, I shot with 4 distinct physical styles. I know that I did that because I did it on purpose. As long as I'm mentally prepared, some of the preparatory steps are the same, I can shoot equally well with all of them. It's very interesting and very useful to me because, as I've also mentioned before, if I am down too low, my body gets in my way of the stroke sometimes. And I end up basically getting a swerve in my stroke because I'm trying to wrap around myself. I don't have to do that if I'm raised up a little bit. I don't have to do that if I back this hand up. Then I can be down as low as I want. There are ways I can get around that, and what I found is, yeah, they all work just fine for me, as long as I know what's going on. I don't want to accidentally have my hand back here one shot and accidentally have it here for the next shot. Be consistent. That besides being able to deal with the pressure of having to finish, the consistency is probably the biggest benefit I got out of all this. All these physical styles that I have, now I am more consistent with each one of them. There are some habits that I knew I should have, but I didn't do them every time. For example, I know that I need to look at this cue ball so I can set my distance for my inner pull putter. This makes a huge difference if I'm down here or raised up a little bit higher, a little bit shorter bridge, whatever. My inner pull putter needs to know this distance. And for him to know this distance, I need to look at the cue ball. I do that almost, well, I'm just going to say I do it every time now. I make sure I set that distance. And that's a habit that I got by doing these chores and not doing the proper habits and missing a shot and having to start over. I don't do that anymore because I got sick of starting over. And there's a saying, if you do something for every day for a month, it can become a habit. I forget what that saying was based on, flossing your teeth or whatever it was. Well, I did it every day for 5 weeks. So I'm doing it right. I'm doing the same thing every time with any given physical style. Well, I'm still changing my physical styles, but I have more information to work with. That raising up off the cue doesn't hurt my accuracy. In some ways, it helps my accuracy. These last couple shots and this one here, I'm up off the cue. My grip hand is more forward. And I'd always been concerned, well, what if my head's accidentally here? Or what if my head is accidentally here? Am I going to be in alignment with the shot line? And the answer is, yeah, I am going to be in line with the shot line. And the other answer is, I'm not going to be down so low that I'm constricted against myself. So, win-win, right? Now get into the harder shots now. And this one, earlier today, this shot here was pissing me off. I think I missed it 3 or 4 times in a row. Just down the rail. So, you know, I guess I get paranoid, maybe about hitting the point or something like that. Or I guess have an optical illusion. Some of the preparatory steps for all my different physical styles are exactly the same. Still want to do my little dance. I still want to set my distance like I already mentioned. Some of them are exactly the same. Some of them are just completely different. And I don't need to get into that stuff. And I don't think you guys even want to hear about it, because this is me. I'm never going to be one of those people that's going to say, you should shoot this way. No, I hate those people. I just do. Another thing that I learned is how big of a difference a small difference can make. For example, bridge length can make just a ridiculously huge difference to me playing. When I'm shooting this chore, if I'm bridging off of the rail, right here I've got a certain length bridge to go from the rail to the cue ball. If I come over here, it's a shorter bridge. You have to pretend there's a ball still there. It's a shorter bridge. Those kind of things would just flat out make me miss until I started noticing it. Once I started noticing what's going on, honestly, on this shot, for the most part, what I've ended up doing is bridging on the table. Shortening my bridge just a little bit and bridging up here on the tape. You guys might not be able to tell, but my bridge is on my fingertips right now. That's where the weight of my bridge is. Whereas before, it's like the middle of my finger and it's here on the rail. It's just, that's a slight difference. But I can do the same bridge length every time that way, instead of using this rail to hold my bridge. Little stupid differences that I wouldn't have thought had made any difference whatsoever. Because speaking of a shorter bridge, let me get through these. And on chore 2, I found that a shorter bridge absolutely helps. And I'll get into why on that in a minute. At this point, see, this is an exercise. I can't believe I missed ball 14. Remember I talked about the angle? There's a reason that I had 14 and 15 where they're at. That ball barely hit the side rim. Barely. And yet the pocket didn't accept it. That's why I have the balls right there. And I know better. But I guess I got into a little bit of a rhythm. Probably got a little lazy. Because you guys don't want to watch me shoot the stupid shot. What I was getting at was bridge length. Because I am not a robot. Let me make sure I'm not a robot, human being. My follow through is not always going to be perfectly straight. I cannot go, this is an exaggeration, okay? But at some point I start to veer off, and I start to veer off to my left. If I have a bridge that is too long, by the time the tip gets to the cue ball, I might have already started to veer off to my left, which could make me miss the shot. Don't like to miss shots, especially when I was doing my chores. So what I learned here on this chore 2 was I needed to shorten my bridge. I don't have a tape measure and know what my bridge is as far as inches go, or centimeters, I guess. But I know what I shoot with. I would shoot with like this. This is probably about a 12-inch bridge. That's what I've always just kind of assumed. Shorten it up about 2 inches. Shorten it up about 2 inches, which is also moving this hand forward about 2 inches, which also means I can't be all scrunched down. I have to be raised up. Now I can do that. I don't lose any accuracy. I've already mentioned I don't lose any accuracy. I'm not being hampered by my own body, trying to get around my own body. That particular style, it has a name that I've been using it for years for bank shots. But now I know that it will also work for regular shots as well. So that's cool. Little 2-inch little bridge length difference is just, it can be just huge for me. And there are so many things like that I learned from doing those daily, twice daily, 3 times daily, whatever chores. All I wanted to do was learn how to deal with, the pressure. And I did learn that. I haven't got that mastered. I don't have any of pool mastered, okay? I learned that. I learned a lot more. But I stopped having fun. I started dreading coming down here and playing. Stopped having fun playing pool. And a lot of times when I would even finish my chores, especially if it took a long time, not only would I not want to play anymore, I'd be burned out, I wouldn't really feel like a pool player. I'd feel like some guy that just struggled through a bunch of shots and finally got through them. Yeah, it's not what I wanted. That was an unintended side effect, is what I would call that. And I want to have fun. And I wanted to do the chores so I would shoot better and therefore have more fun. I think that probably makes sense to everybody. So, let's see, I'm looking at my board here. I have some things written on the board, but not a lot. I think I've covered it. The things that I kind of learned that are kind of important. Your mileage almost certainly will vary on different things. For me, the most important thing that I got out of all this, let me think for a second, because I did get a lot out of it. I think the most important thing I got out of all this was no matter what physical style I'm using, I'm basically just as good. A lot of the preparatory work, the pre-shot routine and all that is the same. But I'm not losing accuracy, especially not by raising up off the cue. That's always been a concern of mine. Always feeling like, well, if I'm down here, yeah, I'm accurate as hell because I'm sighting along the cue and sighting along the shot line, all that. I'm accurate as hell. But I could have been hampered by my own body. It might be why I cheated the clock a little bit on that shot. If I raise up a little bit and shoot the same shot, I'm not hampered at all. I'm not falling through so much that things start to veer to the left because of a bridge that's longer than optimal. It's just nice. The ball is just going. I think I've said everything I was going to say about this video. I got so much out of doing the chores. I don't regret doing the chores. I think it was a very good idea, and they were fun at first. Because I think I said at the beginning, I knew I was doing something good. I was doing something that was going to improve me probably more rapidly than just being down here just playing with. I was working on something specific, and it was great. Now I get to practice the way I want to practice without that requirement. I can still do the chores. I can still try to do them in order, do them as a drill. I can still try that. If I don't, it's no longer the end of the world. I don't have to do the chores first thing when I come down. I can do them last thing for all I care. I could not do them at all for all I care. It's whatever I think is going to be fun. And that's the whole point of having the pool table for me, is to have fun on it. guess that's all I want to say at this point. So, we'll talk to you guys later, and thanks. Bye.